Good morning, we're live. It's Mr. Tomac back again with another episode of the Chromeworks Club, a weekly live stream where we talk about Scratch and coding and everything to do with technology and kids. So I'm Andrew Tomac, your technology teacher, and I'm joined here as always by some members of my co-op crew and some of my online students on Discord, and we'll be meeting them a little bit later. First of all, though, I wanted to say a big shout out to my favorite cartoon cat, Scratch. It is Scratch's birthday this week. May 15th marked the 14th birthday of the Scratch coding engine. Really excited about that, guys. And the guys over at MIT were very excited about this as well. They put together some fantastic new projects, or some studios, where they invited kids this week to celebrate Scratch's birthday and Scratch Week by producing all kinds of amazing, fun little projects along different themes. Let me show you the website. So this is the little link you can get to if you're looking to find Scratch Week content, right here at the top right under Scratch News. I'm not sure how long it'll be up there, but for a couple of days anyway. So if you click on that link, you'll find links to a whole bunch of studios that have great Scratch projects for them. So every day we did a different theme. The first one was Ridiculous Inventions, Cooking with Scratch, Magical Arcade, Invent an Instrument, and then the last one yesterday was Make Someone's Day. I asked Ben, my co-op student, to have a look at some of these projects and pick the ones that he thought was the best and show them to you guys. So without further ado, I'm going to show you Ben's video right now.
What's up, guys? It's Ben. Today we're doing a quick segment on some of the coolest Scratch projects from Scratch Week. So let's go all the way back to Monday, where we're going to have a look at some of the ridiculous inventions we had to create. The first one here is a coffee machine, and after I flick all these little buttons, it's going to go through with gears turning and eventually make my coffee. Kind of cool. There was also an awesome donut machine that allows me to create infinite donuts and then eat them all. It's just like my dreams. Fat boy. I have that recorded, Dad. The last one for Monday is a cool animation about a new delicious invention.
My strange invention is exploding chips. Let me show you.
Speaking of delicious inventions, I made some pancakes on Tuesday where there was cooking related projects. Yummy! But you know what's better than pancakes? Me neither. But you can find out what food you would be by taking this small little quiz. I got a donut when I took the quiz. Now I really am hungry. But it wasn't me who stole the potato, I promise. See, it flew off or something. Whatever just happened. Anyway, on Wednesday it was magical arcade theme, starting with making your own dragon. And this is eventually how mine turned out. And then we become a wizard casting spells at dragons. And then to finish it off, there was a weird and bizarre story about a wizard and a kid named Ben. Hopefully not me though. On Thursday, we had to create our own instruments, like this music player and soundboard, and it also comes with tons of cool music. Then lastly is this really cool sandwich instrument, and you can play around with it, press all kinds of things, drag all kinds of things, and it makes a bunch of weird sounds and noises.
Yum, yum, yum. Crunch chips.
Then finally, on the last day, Friday, we were tasked with making someone else's day, and the Scratch community definitely delivered. Like this one project that definitely made my day, with all kinds of compliments. Or this other project that allows me to create my own cards. Here's one for you guys. And lastly, a big red button. And who doesn't love pushing big red buttons? And boom, tons of confetti coming out. So that's all for me. Make sure to check out Scratch Week and see all kinds of cool, crazy projects. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you next time. What's up, guys? It's Ben. Morning. How's it going?
Oh, sorry. I forgot to unmute my mic. So Ben's with us this morning in the Chromeworks studio. Ben, tell us what you thought of Scratch Week. It seems like you had a lot of fun checking out these projects.
Yeah, there's tons of projects. There's even more coming up now too. Every day I look back on them, there's even more. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. So it's not too late to create one of these projects yourself. If you want to go to the Scratch Studio, you can click on any of these studios and create a project yourself to help celebrate Scratch's 14th birthday. So that's great. Who else is with us in the Chromeworks studio this morning? We've got our Florida crew. Balin's here again this morning. Good morning, Balin.
Good morning.
Good morning. And his brother Thane is here, also from Florida. Good morning, Thane.
Good morning, Mr. T.
And his littlest brother, our youngest Chromeworker, Thorin, is here this morning as well. I don't know if Thorin's able to say hello.
Here, I can help him. Hello.
Hi, Thorin. Good morning. So these are our three brothers who are all coders from Florida. They're always welcome here.
Mr. T.
Yeah, Balin.
Thorn is our littlest, not our littlest brother, but our littlest Chromeworks brother.
Yeah, the littlest Chromeworks brother. Anyway, you got some even younger ones there. Some future MVPs coming up.
Yeah. One of the things that's cool is that I think I started Scratch like sometime in May.
Yeah.
Scratch's birthday was.
We were just talking in the chat before the session here today about how Thane has been with us for about a year or so now, and his Scratch skills are really coming along. Thane is actually working on his own game tutorial that he's going to be teaching in the future. Tell us a little bit about it. I'm not going to show it yet, Thane, but just tell us a little bit about it.
All right, so last week's live stream, you showed us about the floor block, and I had this idea for a tower defense game, so I put that idea into action. And I had bugs, so I asked Jeffrey to help me, and I was able, and we fixed the problem.
Oh, good. So what's the theme of this game? Like, what kind of tower defense game?
Basically, zombies are coming after you, and you gotta protect them with like arrow towers. Right now, I only have an arrow tower though.
Okay. Well, we're looking forward to seeing the rest of that, Thane. I'm very excited about that. Who else is with us today? So we've got Kendra from Rockland. Good morning, Kendra.
Hi.
Hi. How's things going over there? Are you,
Yeah, it's good.
Good. Most of the here in Ottawa and the rest of Ontario, we're still locked down. So Kendra and the rest of her friends here in Ottawa have all been learning from home the last couple of weeks. I was teaching a class from home this week as well, and I'm going to tell you about it in a few minutes. Also joining us from Ottawa is Kian. Kian the Awesome. Hi, Kian. How are you?
Good, how are you?
How are you enjoying learning at home, Kian? Are you getting a little sick of it now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. All right, and who else is with us? Abe from Ohio, right? Good morning, Abe. If you're with us, so you can say hi. Meanwhile, while we're waiting for Abe, let's say hi to Cam, my other co-op student. Good morning, Cam.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Abe's back with us. Good morning, Abe.
Good morning.
So Abe is one of our newest members of the Discord group here. How are things going? Are you learning remotely, Abe, or are you back in school again?
I'm in school. I'm in school.
You're in school again? Good for you, buddy. All right, guys, let's move on with the rest of the coverage here. You guys might see this big microphone sticking in my face, which you probably haven't seen in previous weeks. It's always been there. It's just been a little back behind the screens before. I've had a lot of air conditioner noise and stuff like that in my new studio. Actually, I wanted to show you guys my new studios. I'm trying to up my game here a little bit and improve the quality of my broadcasts. So here's a picture of my new studio, which is down in the basement of my beautiful new house in Barrhaven, just outside of Ottawa. And you can see that I've got lots of nice lights on my green screen. I've got a beautiful ring light over on the top left there that is replacing the 3 huge lights I had shining on my face before, and it's just doing a fantastic job. And I also have a new webcam. If you guys have a look at me, you can see a lot more detail. Like if you look at my Chromeworks logo on my shirt, you'll see
your HD.
Yeah, the quality of the video has really improved. So I bought myself a brand new Logitech C970 video camera that's working beautifully for my screen grabs, and everything's just looking much better. And so with the microphone a little bit closer, I think my sound quality is going to improve too. So I'm learning every day how to do this stuff better, and hopefully I'm putting out a better broadcast than I was a year ago when I started doing this. Anyway, I was talking about how I was teaching another class this week. I was teaching Miss Murdoch's class at First Avenue Public School in Ottawa. And I want to show you a little bit of what we were working on there. So the kids there wanted to make a simple space shooter game, and that's what I was working on. So everyone made a slightly different game, and some of them didn't even turn out to be space games. They were just games based on that engine. So here's a game by Emma that I wanted to show you. She just did a really lovely job. And her bullets shoot as stars coming on the screen. We're not done the games yet. I'm going back next week, and we're going to finish the game then. But you can see the collision detection's not working. But I think that's actually a really nice little project. Here's a project by Hugh, who just did a demented project that has nothing to do with space shooters. The weird thing about it is, as time goes on, the controls stop working. The game, okay, so the game actually drops poops underneath him whenever you move. And the longer you play the game, the more the controls stop working and the screen gets all demented as well. So that's a really strange project. Thank you for that, Hugh. I'm going to show you Maddie's project. So Maddie started to program a basic zombie shooter game here, and it's actually very smooth. Let me show you the shoot. And it's a nice, clean game. I love the gradients in the background. It's actually working really nicely. Maddie and I spent quite a bit of time clearing this up and fixing some problems yesterday, and I thought it was just a nice little project. And lastly, I want to show you a project by Nancy, and I just love the colors in this project. She downloaded her own background image, and she's got this really cool musical track that's going, and she's got lightning bolts shooting out of her ship. I really like her thrusting sound, which is kind of an ominous alien kind of UFO sound. I think that's just fantastic. Anyway, I'm seeing from Kian on here, he's saying that the lockdown might be over around early June, but I'm not so sure about that. Our provincial government has said that they're not 100% sure when school's going to be back in session. So, I'm seeing someone joining us on YouTube as well. Rajit Universe is here. Good morning, Rajit. If you want to tell us where you're from, just the city or country that you're from, and how old you are, I'd love to give you a proper shout out on the stream. And if anyone else is watching on YouTube live right now, then leave something in the chat, and I will say a nice hello to you. So there's one more week left in our contest to see who can make the best game for Chromeworks. Thane is still in the lead with his water park project that I showed you the other week. But if you're interested, please drop me an email with a link at info@chromeworks.ca, and I would love to show some of your projects. Even if you don't win the contest, Any projects that get submitted to me, I will show them on the air, guys. So make a game for me, please. So this week we are getting ready, very ready to release our Minecraft Tower Defense game. I'm really excited. I've been working with Jeffrey this week, trying to tweak it a little bit. Let me show it to you right now. So this week we're releasing part 2 of our tutorial on how to build this fantastic game. You remember that in part 1 we learned how to set up an underground mining system where we were mining for stone and gold. In part 2 this week we're going to be able to build walls up on the surface level using the material that we've been mining underground. We also have zombies and kind of halfway creepers going in the game as well. Jeffrey is just about done coding this game. Our in-house game guru, Jeffrey, who's been working with me, he's actually my son, who's been working with me for many years on coding projects and stuff. He's been working hard on this game, and he's almost ready to release it to the Scratch community. So I'm going to give you guys a sneak preview today. It's not 100% done, but it's getting very, very close. We're probably going to release it tomorrow or Monday, so watch out on Scratch at the Chromeworks Scratch channel for when we release this, and I'll also be releasing it on Discord, of course, when it comes out. Let me show you guys a little bit of how the game's working here. So he's got some sound effects and stuff going now. So as I was showing, you can mine dirt underground and mine gold as well. Take these resources and build walls that will stop the zombies. Now, if the wall is 1 high, the zombies will climb over it, but if it's 2 high, then they will be stopped by it. You can use your gold to buy Steve archers that you can place on top of or anywhere on the screen, and then you can toggle a button here to shoot arrows. And so there's some strategy on how you place your arrows here so that you can shoot these guys effectively. And in the later ones, we get to creepers. I'm just going to get creepers on the screen here just to show you guys what that would look like. So, and the goal is to keep mining underground until you find the end portal. Where's our creepers? I guess they will show up for a little bit here. Here comes the creeper, so I'm going to let this creeper loose here to actually destroy the walls. I'm coming. Okay, I'll shoot the first one. I'll shoot him again. And we're going to let the second creeper actually destroy my Steve here. So here we go. Watch out for this. Boom! And our wall gets destroyed. So a really awesome little game here. I'm going to save the rest of it until we actually release the game. I'll show you a little bit more of it next week, but really excited to bring that to you guys. I think it's going to be a fantastic project, and this is going to really do well on the Scratch website, I can tell. So anyway, very, very excited to bring this game to you. So I wanted to, every week, we're going to be doing this for probably the course of 5 or 6 weeks or so. It's going to take us a long time. This is a complicated game with lots of code in it. So every week I wanted to tell you a little bit about something that I learned in the process of teaching this game to you guys, or of actually making this game and teaching it to you guys. So Jeffrey's done most of the coding, and I've had to go and look at his code and try and extract the important information to it and then explain it all to you guys in the video. So our video is going to be released at 11 o'clock today. I'm just putting a few little finishing touches to it, and then it'll go out at around 11 this morning. So this week, what I really learned that I thought was interesting was this technique called probing. We've done it before, particularly in our Donkey Kong game a couple of months back. But probing is this idea where you want to make your sprites aware of things that are happening elsewhere on the screen. And the best way to do that is to actually very quickly teleport your object to a different spot on the screen. I've got a little project here for you called Cat Stacker, and I'm going to copy the URL for that into the chat in YouTube and in Discord here for you guys. if you can open up this project, I'm going to be doing a little tutorial right now teaching you this probing technique that I've been talking about. So the idea of probing is sometimes you want a sprite to know not what it's on top of, but what's below it, or to the right of it, or to the left of it. And to do that, you kind of have to teleport your sprite off the screen somewhere to a new location so quickly that the player can't actually see it, and then teleport it back again. So you teleport it ahead of itself or below itself, you check for collision, and then you teleport it back again. So I've created a little video teaching this game Cat Scratcher, or Cat Stacker, and it kind of explains this probing concept, and also reviews the idea, the thing that Thane was talking about, which is how to align things to a grid, which is a lesson that I did last week. So let's get to that video right now. So last week in our May 15th live stream, I taught you guys how to arrange blocks in our Minecraft tower defense game so that they wouldn't overlap each other. We set up an invisible grid that would allow objects to be placed precisely so that they always lined up with the grid and they never... Were you guys hearing the audio on that? It's like the audio cacked out on that.
No, I wasn't.
Let me try that one more time. Hold on, let me just try making a noise inside my editor here. The sound is completely cut out on my computer for some reason here. What's going on? Alright, that's better. I'm not quite sure what was going on there. Okay, I'm going to try that tutorial again. Here we go. So last week in our May 15th live stream, I taught you guys how to arrange blocks in our Minecraft tower defense game so that they wouldn't overlap each other. We set up an invisible grid that would allow objects to be placed precisely so that they always lined up with the grid and they never touched each other. Now the next step I'm going to show you today is something that we call probing, which is how to when we set a block down, how to make it aware of the blocks that are surrounding it. Now it involves kind of moving the block invisibly around to see what it's touching, and it's a very powerful technique. So I'm going to demonstrate that today with a simple stripped down project here that I call Cat Stacker. So Cat Stacker is just a game where we can lay down these cats. Every time I click, it places a clone on the screen, you can see. And basically, it allows you to align them to a grid here so they're always stacked on top of each other. Now, the bit of artificial intelligence I'm going to show you in a little bit is how to prevent these guys from placing themselves if there's not a cat below them. If I click up here in midair, for example, you can see that it just ignores my commands and doesn't place it. It waits until we get down to the ground and then places it. And now if I click on top of it, it lets it do that. So in order to do that, my mouse cursor here needs to be aware of not only what's below it in terms of what I'm pointing at here, but what's down lower on the screen or around it on the screen. It needs to be aware of what's happening elsewhere on the screen, and that's where the probing comes in. I'm going to show you that in a second. I've got a stripped down version of the file right here, and this is where we're going to get started. So as you can see in the code, right now, all it's doing is creating a transparent cat that follows my mouse around the screen. It just has a go-to mouse X and mouse Y here, which will just basically make it match wherever my mouse is on the screen. And if I click, it'll create a clone in that spot, which will have a clear graphic effect, so it will no longer be transparent. So that's letting me lay down the mice, but as you can see, we're not aligned to the grid yet. So let's go ahead and align our objects to the grid. You'll remember that we used some tricky math to do that last week. Let me get rid of the mouse X here, and I'll substitute this blank bit of code here. So what we did last week, and you can watch my May 15th live stream if you want the details on that, is we took our mouse X and divided it by the width of the grid. Now, if we're perfectly aligned to the grid, that will give us a perfectly divisible number. But if we're a little bit off alignment with the grid, it'll give us a number with a remainder. Now, what we're going to do is use a floor command, which rounds the number down to bring it back in alignment with the grid. So it'll make the number perfectly divisible. And then we multiply it by the width of the grid again. And the last step we do is if our object isn't perfectly aligned to the grid, then we can just add a little bit of offset just to make sure that it starts right at the left and bottom of the grid here. So let me give you an example. So if I have a 30 grid here, I multiply my mouse X by 30, and then I grab a floor of it. So if I'm off, then I'm going to come up with a number that gets rounded down. Then I multiply it by 30 again. Now let's try it on the screen here. So our mouse Y is not being affected here. We're just looking at our mouse X. And you can see that I'm only allowed to move my object in 30 pixel alignment here. If I try to move it slowly, it won't move until it hits a threshold over to the next grid spot, and then it'll pop over there. If I click to place these guys down, you can see that they're spaced quite regularly, but they're not perfectly aligned. So you've got to play with this number here until you find a spot where a number that will align these guys perfectly so that they're not touching each other. The number I came up with after a bit of playing around is 52, and that seems to work quite well. So let's look at that again. And you can see that now our cats are perfectly spaced with each other. Now, we still haven't done the vertical alignment. The only other thing I wanted to look at here was the fact that we can place cats off the screen here, right? So to arrange these cats perfectly with each other, we're going to actually move them over a little bit, offset them on the screen by an amount that's going to bring this first guy right over so that he's aligned with the left side of the grid. I did some playing around and I came up with the number 48. You can see what that does. It lines it up so it's perfectly against the left side of the grid here. So that's the first place that we can start clicking. Beautiful. All right, now we have to do something similar to the left side of the grid here. I've already got some code set up here for that. And you can see that after a bit of playing around, it came up with a grid of 64 because this guy's taller than he is wide, and an offset of 50. Let's try that out again. And you can see that our guy is perfectly aligning vertically and horizontally to the grid now. And no matter what happens, he won't go off the edge. Now, that's not going to fix us on the far right-hand side of the grid, and that's just because our numbers just don't quite add up there, but we're close enough now. Okay, so now let's get into the meat of the tutorial here. How do we get these guys to be aware of whether there's a guy stacked on top of them? I don't want to be able to set these guys up in midair like that, so they have to look down below them and see what's going on. So I want to show you the logic that's involved in putting that together. So this is a little flow chart I created that basically demonstrates the logic we're going to be using here in our code. Once we click the green flag, the first thing we're going to do, which I've already shown you, is aligning our sprite to the grid. Then it's going to wait for us to click, and it's going to check and see if we can place down a clone. But before it does, there's a whole couple of things that we need to check and make sure of. We need to see, first of all, whether we're touching another cat. That's the first thing we should check for, because that's the one thing that's going to break this. If we're allowed to place a cat, we can place it anywhere on the screen with this code right now, but if we place one on top of another cat, then we know that we've placed it wrong. So we're going to check and see, am I touching a cat? If I am touching a cat, it's going to go back to the top and basically ignore all the rest of the commands, and it'll wait for you to click again to make sure you're not touching a cat. So that's the kind of default state here. The first thing it wants to check is, am I touching another cat? After that, we want to make sure that it's touching the ground. Now, if it's not touching the ground, that won't break the program here. But if it is touching the ground, and there's already no cat underneath it, we know for sure that's the spot where we can create a clone. So there we'll create a clone, and then the loop will come back around and wait for our next click. If that's not the case, if I'm not touching the ground, well, we're still going to be allowed to place a cat, but only if there's a cat below me. So if there's a no here, we have to check down below us, and this is where the probing comes in. And we'll ask the question, is there a cat below me? If the answer is yes, then I'm allowed to make a clone of myself. If the answer is no, then we're going to come right back around and disallow this function. We'll go back to the start again. So that's the basic logic we're trying to code here. Okay, so we're back looking at our code again, and I'm going to get rid of this create a clone of myself, and I'm going to, before we're allowed to create a clone, we're going to have to run all those checks. So let's go ahead and create a custom block here that's going to take care of all of those checks. We're going to call that probe and make clone. And so in here is where we're going to basically define ourselves making the clone. You can see that when I drop this block in here that's into the spot where the make clone was before, it basically functions the way that it did before. But again, yeah, we're aligned to the grid, but it's allowing us to make it in midair right now. Okay, so we're going to add a little bit of logic here that's going to check and see whether we're allowed to place something. So as I said, the first thing on our flowchart here is we're checking to see if we're already touching a cat. So let's go and grab an if statement. And we want a block here that says touching cat, but we're going to run into trouble here because we're in a cat, and Scratch is not smart enough to know that we're allowed to check if we're touching a cat, because we already have a cat down here, and Scratch assumes that we can't touch ourselves, that there's no such way to do it. Now that's going to be a problem if we're doing this kind of script, because we can in fact touch a clone of ourselves. And so we have to do a little workaround. We have to go to a different sprite and grab touching cat from there. It is available to other sprites, and believe it or not, this works. If I take this block and drag it back to the cat, now I have a touching cat sprite that works. It's a weird workaround, but believe me, it actually works. So we're going to go, we don't want to say if we're touching the cat here, because we only want the program to proceed if we're not touching a cat. Otherwise, we just want to skip the whole program and go back to the start again. So I'm going to grab a not and pop that into that hole. There we go. So if I'm not touching a cat, then we can proceed to the next step. So right now we can test this program out here and see that if I create a cat and then I try to align a cat on top of itself here, well, it's not going to let me do that. Now we can't actually see that in action here, so let me add a sound effect file here. We're going to go squish pop. And so every time we lay down a cat now, you can see that sound effect is going to go. And if I try to lay a cat on top of itself, you can see that there's no sound effect. So this clone copy is not working because we're trying to place it on top of itself. Okay, beautiful. So if you have another look at our flow chart here, we can see that we've passed the first threshold where we've determined whether we're touching an existing cat or not. And the next thing we have to look out for is whether we're at ground level or not. Now this second question is a little trickier, because if the answer is no, we don't just skip it the way that we did for the first one. We actually have a second thing we need to check. And that's why instead of an if, we need an if-else statement here. So that's what we're going to look at right now. So I'm back in the code here. What we're going to be checking for is, are we at ground level? On that, we're going to tell that based on our y coordinate. I've just substituted some code back in here just to make this guy start dropping clones on the spot here right now, just so I can show you where the y coordinate is. So my grid is forcing me to place these guys in the same position all the time. And if we look at the y coordinate down here, you'll see that it's always minus 142 if we're on the ground. If we move up, it's offset by 64, which makes it minus 78. But that y coordinate will never change as long as we're in the bottom row here. We can work with that number and determine whether our guy's on the ground here. Let's get rid of this create a clone of myself. We don't need this anymore. And I'm going to put an if-else statement in here. And in the positive side of the if statement, we're going to put our clone creation code here. So now we want to see if our y coordinate equals that number. Let's grab an equal sign, and we'll grab a y coordinate from the top of our motion blocks here, and that magic number is minus 142. So now we can tell whether we're touching the ground or not. Let's go test the program one more time. Click the green flag, our clones will disappear. And so I'm along the bottom of the screen here, and when I click, you can see that my clone is created. But if I'm up in the air, no joy, nothing's happening here. Now, this still needs to determine whether there's anything below it or not. So we will be allowed to create a clone in this spot, but not in this spot. So what we're going to have to do is actually take this clone and teleport him down here and see if he's overlapping with another clone right now. And that's what this probing is that I'm talking about. We're checking at a different part of the screen to see what's there, and that affects what we can do in this square, right? So inside this else statement, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pop our character down 1 grid coordinate from where he is already. So we're going to change our Y by -64, which will basically move him down to check the next grid coordinate. Now, while we're doing this, we want to change to a different costume. Sometimes when these guys are overlapping, if the grid's not quite right or whatever, they might show up as overlapping even though they're not. So when we're doing this probing, we like to change to a smaller costume. I've created a second or a third costume for this cat called Probe, and it's just a teeny little circle. So while we're probing around and looking at things in this big sequence of if statements, we're going to change our character to this little dot to minimize the chances that he's going to accidentally overlap with the big cat will accidentally overlap with another part of the other big cat. And so that will just make sure that everything's exactly aligned the way that we like it. We can actually do that change right at the beginning of this statement. This all is going to get implemented pretty much immediately. So we'll want it to stay in that condition until the end. So at the very beginning, we're going to switch costume to probe. And now we're down 64 pixels down on the screen, and now we're checking. Again, we're in a situation here where even if the situation isn't true, something still has to happen. So if it is true, we're going to create our clone, and then we're going to move ourselves back up to our starting position because we're offset right now, and then we'll create our clone. But if it's not true, we still have to move back up to our height of 64 as well. So that's why we need a second if-else statement in here down below this change Y. So I'm going to grab an if-else and pop it right into this spot here. And I'm going to need that if touching cat. I can't get one from my sensing blocks here, so let's just duplicate it and pop it in there. There we go, if touching cat. We're going to, first of all, before we create our clone, we have to move back up the screen again. So let's change our Y by 64. That will bring us back to our starting position again. And then we can go ahead and play the sound and create the clone right under there. Now, if the opposite is true, if we can't place an object here, all we have to do is move our object back to the starting position. We still need it back in its starting position, so we're going to go change Y by 64 here as well, so that no matter what happens, it still goes up, but if the condition is true, then it will create the clone. Okay, so we're pretty much done here. The only problem is our costume is still a dot, so we're going to have to make sure it's changed back again. So we can do that right here under when I started the clone. We can switch costume back to costume 1. Now that's going to more or less fix the problem. Let's test the program though, and we'll see there's one other little issue here. So when I click the green flag, so now the program is working the way I expected. I can place an object on the ground, and another one, and I can place it on his head, and I'm able to stack them. But if I try to place one where there's nothing supporting him underneath, you can see that it's not working. So that's exactly the way we want our program to work. There's one other little glitch here, and if you can look carefully when I click, you can see that little dot is visible for just a second here when I click in a spot. That's the original dot. That's not a clone. That's the original character here. So for one frame of animation, that little dot is still visible here. We have our clone turning back to costume 1, but the original cat that's moving around with us across the screen here still hasn't changed back to costume 1. It will eventually back here when it comes around this loop again. After it's done, it will switch its costume back, but for one frame of animation, it still looks not very professional here. So we actually have to add a second switch costume right at the bottom of this. Once it finishes this loop, everything inside here because this isn't actually a loop, it's all being executed simultaneously. So it'll switch costumes, do all of these checks and move around, and then switch back to costume 1 before we even notice anything has happened. And so now when we run our program, let's stop it and restart. You'll see we no longer see that little dot. Okay, we've got a perfectly functioning little cat stacker program here. It's letting us stack when we do and when we can't. I think you guys can see the application of this in all kinds of board games and other stuff as well. So you'll see a less in-depth tutorial about how to do this probing inside part 2 of our Minecraft tutorial. So go have a look at that, guys. In the meantime, hope you enjoyed that.
Hey guys, my name's Connor. I'm a co-op student at Chromeworks, and on this episode of Turbo Tutorials, we're going to be looking at the Hex Color Picker. The Hex Color Picker just makes it a lot easier to find the color you're looking for. So first things first, click the add-ons at the top here, and once you're here, find the Hex Color Picker. You can just find it here or search it and make sure it's on. Once it is, go back, see what's inside, and once you're here, go to your costumes, and where you choose your color, just click this and then the box here, and this is the Hex Color Picker. Okay, so the Hex Color Picker just works like you have to move this circle around to try and get the color you want. And also there's a slider down here for the different colors. And you just want to move it around. If you want it lighter, go to the top left. Want it darker, go to the bottom right. Kind of like this. And pretty much what it does is it makes it so you don't have to fiddle around with these sliders here. So it's just much simpler to kind of move around the circle and kind of feel out which color you want. Another thing that you can do with the Hex Color Picker is change the opacity of the color. So I'll put it at opacity of 50, and I'll go to the bucket, and once I click it, it'll be see-through. This top part of the, I think this is an ice cream, is now transparent. So let's just get a backdrop here. It doesn't matter which one. And as you can see, the top part is now transparent. You can also just search up a color, like let's say cyan. Color code. And you can look through these colors here, and you can copy the color code. Let's just go back here. So if you have the color code, you can actually just paste it in here, enter, and it'll get you the color you want. So if you know the color, like the color's name, you can type it in, search for the color code, and you can just copy and paste it in here to get your color. Alright, that's it for this video. Make sure you check out the Chromeworks YouTube channel for more Scratch content. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Connor. Sorry, I had another audio issue again there, and I think my YouTube audience probably didn't hear my last introduction. So that was Connor showing us another piece of this Turbo Warp website that's an add-in for Scratch, and that's what I was saying when you saw my lips moving there a couple of minutes ago. Anyway, so I'm back with another report here from Ben, who's been doing a regular sequence for us called Time Traveler, where he goes back in time and looks at a famous console from an era in the past. So this week he's done one of the biggest and most important console releases of all time, which is the Nintendo NES. So let's get right to that.
Hey guys. Damn, I really gotta think of something better to use rather than just hey guys. Anyway, welcome back to episode 3 of Time Travelers, where we're going to be looking back at some of the most important video game consoles back in the dark ages of the 1980s. And today, we're looking at the golden age of video games, when the NES, or Nintendo Entertainment System, was first released. So, without hesitation, let's get into it. The NES released all over the world at various times, but it released in 1985 in North America. And during this time period, there is a song that I can get behind. No, just me. Fine, we'll talk about the NES then. This was the console that dug the video game industry out of its grave, selling over 61 million systems worldwide. And for good reason. With controllers that look similar to something that you might find nowadays, with the familiar looking D-pads, it's definitely coming along. This redesign was done on purpose though, to distinguish itself from other video game consoles because of the poor reputation they got from the crash in 1983. Which we covered in our last episode on the Atari 2600. Make sure to check it out after the live stream.
Toughest challenge. Will you be the first to raise the incredibly accurate Zapper and play games like Duck Hunt or action-packed Hogan's Alley and high-flying Kung Fu, each sold separately? Will you be the one to experience the Nintendo Entertainment System? Comes with Rob, Zapper, Control Deck, 2 controllers, Gyromite, and Duck Hunt.
So why is it considered to be the golden age of video games? Well, it had a lot to do with the actual games that came along with the system. It introduced the first ever Final Fantasy, Kirby, Ice Climbers, Duck Hunt, Project Doom, Mega Man, and even a Batman game that came out later. But the more important games that everyone will know are Legend of Zelda. Just kidding, the original Legend of Zelda. There was Donkey Kong. And perhaps the most recognizable series ever, Mario Bros. Yeah, this is when Mario was invented. And yes, that was one of the commercials that was advertising Mario. Pretty cringy, right? The NES and its classic games are so nostalgic and popular that Nintendo even made a re-release in 2016 with all the classic games. So, in the end, the NES was revolutionary, saving the video game industry, and you have it to thank for all the video games you're playing now. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you next time.
Thanks for that, Ben. So, I know, Ben, are you still on the line with us?
Yeah.
So Ben, I noticed you mentioned a device called the Gyromite. Can you tell us what that was? Because I don't remember that from when I had my Nintendo NES.
The Gyromite. I'm not sure what I know. Is it one of the accessories that came along with it?
Yeah, sorry, it wasn't you who mentioned it. It came up in the commercial, I think, maybe. But Gyromite was actually the name of a game. I was Googling this while the movie was playing here. But do you remember anything about a robot peripheral being released for the original Nintendo?
Robot? You mean like the little Rob thing? Like the
robotic
robot?
operating buddy. Let me show it to you guys right now. So this was the robotic operating buddy. I've never even heard of this until now. I don't know if anyone else in the chat has heard of this before, but so it was released with the original NES, or at least early versions of it. Does anyone know what it did or how you could play games with it? Ben, do you have any idea at all?
Not really, actually. I didn't look too much into it. All I know is really cool.
Okay, so
yeah, well, it's I don't know how it works, but it's so basically Rob. Yeah, I've heard it's been in like the old Nintendo, but I thought that was like way before like video games even like I thought it was sometime in the 1970s Rob came out.
Yeah.
I've known Rob for like 3 years or something.
Right. Kian says his
Yeah,
dad,
we have.
Yeah, Kian says his dad used to own one of them, apparently, anyway. So, Ben, maybe you can find out a little bit more about the Rob and just tell us about it next week. Because I'm curious about it as well, and I know our audience probably anyone who's interested in video game history would probably want to know a little bit more about that. So,
yeah, he's also in other video games. He's also in Super Smash Bros.
Right. Okay, so we're going to find out a little bit more about the Rob next week and this game that went with it called Gyromite, and I'm just kind of curious about it anyway. Okay, so we have one last little regular segment for you. Thane has another great Minecraft mod review for you. Thane seems to have a thing for these old Valve games that he's never actually played, because a couple of weeks ago he did the gravity gun from Half-Life 2, and this week he did the portal gun from one of my favorite video games of all time, Portal, and that's been ported over to Minecraft as well. Thane, did you know that this was from another Valve game? Did you even, when you picked it?
Nope, I just have heard about the portal gun before, and I honestly didn't know what else to choose. It was like late.
Okay.
It was,
no
yeah.
worries. It's a fantastic little mod, and the game, I have to tell you guys, it's a very safe for kids game. You're just basically teleporting around trying to solve puzzles as you're trying to survive against this demented computer that's trying to kill you. It's a fantastic computer game and one I'd highly recommend. So that's been ported over to Minecraft, and let's hear what Thane has to say about it.
Have you ever wished that you could go to places without walking? Because it's so annoying to walk all the time? Well, now you can. Hi guys, it's me, Thane, back to the Chromworks Club, with another Minecraft mod review. Today's Minecraft mod review will be the portal gun mod. This is not the gravity gun mod. It sounds similar, but it's not. And here's how you here's how it works. As you see, there are two little marks by your, where your mouse is. So there's a yellow and blue marker there right now. So basically what these are is it's what you can do. So if you do, and you just gotta press left click and right click. Left click gives you one of them, right click gives you another. See, and look, now they're filled, which means they're activated. So if we go ahead and go into one of them, we just teleported. And the only way I know for now how to get rid of the portals is just by graving the block underneath it. Now if we go back here, I did this so I could ping my location. Go back here. Here's how you make it. To make this portal gun, and right now I think it is uncharged, like not charged up or something. Oh, whoops. Well, anyways, I'll put it in my inventory to show you how to make it. I think it was like this: 5 iron, 1 diamond, 2 obsidian, and an ender pearl. Or at least I think that's how you do it. I got it off Google. And then there's a few more. There's I don't think these have any advantages or disadvantages. I think it just makes the portals different and stuff. To make a an Atlas portal gun, you need, I think, a portal gun and some light blue dye. To make a Peabody's portal gun, you need a portal gun and dandelion yellow dye. To make a bacon portal gun for some reason, you need a portal gun and raw pork chop, I think. And if we look here at this chest, to make a potato portal gun, you're going to need a portal gun and whatever this is. It's like a potato battery. So the only difference here is the different colors. So let me show you. And I'm sorry about all the noise. So let's see. Starters, this is the regular gun. Yeah, it's for each color you place down. So it's yellow now. If I go ahead and place down blue here, yep, it turns blue again. Next up, we got this portal gun. We got the blue version, and we got the purple version. And then we got the Peabody one. Right click, now it's red. Left click, now it's yellow. Looking at the bacon one, right click, now it's green. Left click, now it's lavender. And looking at the potato gun, right click, now it's navy. Left click, now it's tan. Oh my gosh. Look at this cow. Sorry, cow. The cow died from walking in the portals. Huh, pretty funny. So yeah, and if I hop in these portals, and you can go to different locations. I'm actually go ahead and delete all these portals here. The only way I've found so far to get rid of them is to break them. So let's go back. So I'm gonna try to see how far this can go. So I place a portal down here. It's not filled, so. I guess it's not hitting. That tree. Yep, there we go. So if we go ahead and hop this portal now, where are we gonna go? All the way over there. Go ahead and break this block. Now I'm going to show you how to do it like from a really far distance. So if I go ahead and right click here, so we want to go back here. Alright, and I'm going to fly really far away. Here, this is from my last episode. Remember these lollipops? They were from my last Minecraft mod review, the Pandora's box, the devastation mod. That mod that made everything. Oh my gosh, I hate bees. So if we go ahead and place it right here, if we hop in, we're back at our original spawn point. Go ahead and just do that and break these portals down. So that this isn't the complete portal gun mod, but for now I'm only showing the portal guns. Next time I'll try showing the other things that this mod has to offer. And thank you guys so much for watching this vid. And I hope you had fun watching it. It's Lucky Block time. Let's grab our Lucky Block. / game mode 0. Alright, let's go. What are we gonna get? Is it gonna be explosion? Gonna be diamonds? Oh jeez. I got sifters. I have no idea what these do, but maybe we'll find that out in another mod / game mode 1, please. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. Please make sure to subscribe to the Chromeworks Club, and I'll see you next time with another great mod review.
Thanks a lot for that, Thane. That cow getting stuck in the portal is hilarious.
Yeah, it just happened on accident. Like, I didn't plan that at all.
It would have been stuck there forever, I guess, if you hadn't...
Yeah, I just kept going through the blocks, I think. I think it was suffocating through the blocks as well.
Yeah.
So, the damage.
Very wacky anyway. So thanks for that. I really enjoyed that mod review.
Welcome.
So that wraps it up for this week's episode, guys. Part 2 of our Minecraft Tower Defense is now live. So you can go find that on the Chromeworks YouTube channel. And we'll be back next week, and we'll be making our... right now, our Minecraft creepers are not properly exploding the walls, so we'll be adding that and a whole bunch of other functionality in part 3 next week, and you'll hear more about it as the week progresses. So looking forward to that. In the meantime, happy coding, everybody. Happy belated Scratch Week to everybody, and we will see you next week. Thanks.